Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I'm Barbara Tien, and I am delighted to welcome Sindi Terrien, who will be doing a presentation for us. These are what I think of as our premier events each month. We present a variety of different kinds of events as an effort to focus on projects. As all of us are family historians in one form or another, the key to what we're doing is to be able to share it either with a legacy, with future generations, with immediate family, with extended family, or even publishing things. What I realized is that projects take lots of different forms. And at the end of the day, what we're trying to do the most is to get people excited about why it matters and why it matters so much to us and what the interesting and fun stories are. A conversation led to a conversation, led to an introduction, and pretty soon I'd met Sindi. And we hit it off right away. In particular, what I just loved was the notion of fun, to really focus on making family history, genealogy engaging, to rope in the next generation. As you know, with Pongo, we're all about hooks. We are hooked on stories, but we also want to hook other people in. And I'm delighted to have Sindi talking to us. She wrote a book, Genealogy Fun, while developing new genealogists. And I'm delighted to have her share with us not only the core ideas of this of the book, but also how it goes down into creating a activity books. It's kind of where the rubber meets the road in getting the kids excited. So with that as an introduction, Sindi, I'll turn to you and let you tell a little bit about your own background so I don't get it all wrong.
Okay, if you want to move to the next slide.
Sure.
Thank you. So I've been doing genealogy for over 20 years, and I've always listened to the stories of my mother, and I've recorded many of her stories. And then I started a blog called My Many Mothers, which is the biographies of many of my ancestral great-grandmothers and great-great-grandmothers back 8 or 9 generations. So you can find that there, and my biographies are written in different formats. Some of them are like a letter, some of them are like a conversation between two people, others are like the story of a child telling the story of their parents, or it's the parents and so forth. So I try to give the biography, which are all very factual and cited. So I very rarely put anything that I can't prove happened in any of my memoirs, unless I'm, really taking license with the story. Findingapublisher.com is a website I started. It's still in the works, but it allows people that are writing and they want to get published with a genealogy publication. You can go and find which genealogy societies or historical societies have publications and what they're accepting and what the rules are for doing one of their papers. So that's what those websites are. And then Fun with Genealogy is just my page that I've started on having fun with genealogy. So if you want to go to the next page or slide. So I don't know about you, my genealogy research doesn't look like this, but if you looked in my computer, it might look a little bit like this. You can go on to the next slide. So you have all of this research information that's either in folders and cabinets in your home, or it's online or on a software program. And you have all these digital files and photos and graphics and everything. And you need to know, what am I going to do with it after I'm gone? Who's going to take over? Who's the next generation? And because you've collected so much and it's so valuable, you want to make sure that somebody else in the family is going to take it on one day for you. You want to go to the next slide? So who are we going to pass the baton to? Who's the next generation? And we need to think about who it is, when will you pass it on to them, and how will you pass it on to them? How do I get those breadcrumbs to somebody that's going to want to come back to me and give me and ask me more questions? How am I going to develop them so that they too have the genealogy bug? Because as you know, not everybody's interested, or at least they say that today, they're not interested. But I say you're just going to have to be slow and persistent and don't lose hope. If you want to go into the next one. What I propose, as you can tell, is that we should make genealogy fun. But you have to know that there are all kinds of different ways to have fun, and what you think of as fun may not be fun to someone else. So definitions of fun are these: enjoyment, entertainment, playful, we get pleasure from something. So what I say to you is you need to know what your target audience thinks of as fun. So let's go on to the next slide. So we know what makes genealogy fun for us. We like to uncover secrets, like my great-grandfather had a second family that nobody knew about. Or we discover the unexpected, like you find out your great-grandmother ran for mayor for her town. You may have a famous ancestor, or you just like to solve mysteries, like why would she not talk about her father? So those are some of the things that make genealogy fun for us. If you want to go on to the next slide. Again, what's fun for us is that endless hunt. Once you finish one branch of the family, there's always another branch of the family to start. Some people want to know about their genealogy because they want to join a lineage society. So they need to find out what their genealogy is in order to get into that society. And then others just want to make that connection from one generation to the next. And some of us like to pass on customs and traditions. And when I think about customs and traditions, I'm not just thinking about, family recipes, but it's something like sewing quilts from one generation to the next, or writing letters, or writing thank you notes, some of the things that people don't do anymore, but that are important and that we would like others to continue and not lose it completely. And then some of us just like the education of it, knowing about the history, the historical events, or the politics and whatever is going on in the history at that time. So we can go on to the next slide. So one of the things we need to think about is why genealogy may not appeal to others. The actual genealogy research can be lonely and can be, you're behind a book all the time or in front of a computer screen, you're looking for research. And if you go into the next slide, and the next slide, it kind of looks like homework. So some people just don't want to do it, or it frightens them. So let's go on to the next slide. So again, we say, who is your target audience? Is it the children in your family? Is it the grandchildren? Maybe it's a cousin. Maybe it's not a family relative at all. Maybe it's just friends and associates, but you need to know who your target audience is. And if you'll go on to the next slide. So once you have your target audience, you need to think about what they like, what's important to them. So if someone that likes celebrations, they may like things that calendar where it has all the different birthdays and the anniversaries and significant events that happened. If they're into math, they might like statistics about the family. And that's one area I think a lot of people don't realize can be a lot of fun, and we'll talk about that later. But if they're science oriented, then using DNA and the different traits and maybe health issues that it passed on from family to family might be the way you reel someone into enjoying genealogy the way you do. If we go on to the next one. So you need to appeal to your audience. So if they like hands-on, you might need to do real research with them. If they are an oral learner, you want to tell them stories and have them repeat the stories back to you. Visual photos help all the time with the visual. The sensory, someone that has a real sense of smell or taste, you want to talk about recipes with them possibly. Or you may even have to do something off the rails, like write a campaign for Dungeons and Dragons that entails your family events and people and history and so forth. So there's some things that you just may have to kind of think out of the side of the box. So let's go on to the next slide. Other things that you can do is those group activities. You might want to invite, now this is usually geared towards children, but children of all ages. It's not just the 10-year-olds. You also need to be thinking about your 16-year-olds, your 20-year-olds. So you might do a group activity with them. Or if they like traveling, of course you want to take them to the family mainland if you can. Or, you know, just doing those extra activities that are active and so forth. So let's go on to the next slide. And then some people are just passive. So when I think about a scavenger hunt, I know that Barbara has a friend that comes on regularly, and Anna, oh, now I forgot how to say her last name. Barbara, can you tell me Anna's last name for the scavenger hunts?
Of course. I think many of you will recognize her from previous events. It's Anna Schutz, who did our event in November, which is available on the recording. She also did one earlier, I think, in September. So she's been a regular for many events, and this was one specifically for her own nephews and nieces that she put together.
And she had a wonderful, you know, activity outside, clues and so forth. But when I think about scavenger hunts, I think about giving somebody a list of things to maybe find in the house, or like different, what do you call these, heirlooms that are in the house. Or you might find, ask them to go online into a newspaper website and find articles about the family, things that you know were there, and you kind of guide them to look for things. So it doesn't just have to be outdoors and active. It can be things that are on your computer or using your ancestry.com or your heritage or family search. So we need to just think about what it is that appeals to the people that you're targeting. We can go on to the next one. So age group. So it needs to be age appropriate, of course. So let's go on to the next page. So whenever I think of activities that can be done, there's coloring pages and paper dolls, word games, Where's Grandma, we'll talk about that. Statistics, we'll talk about that, and no swab needed. So if you'll go on to the next one. And I will tell you this, I don't profess to know all the activities or all the ways that make genealogy fun. You're going to listen to here, and you're going to go to other places, and you're going to find some ways. But another idea that I had was with Instagram, because that's what our teens and tweens and our young adults use a lot. You might want to take some photos of ancestral people and have them photoshopped to the trend that's in Instagram today. So that might mean you're changing the colors of what people are wearing to brighter colors of today, even though that's not appropriate for the photo, but it's appropriate for what is appealing to the people that are using Instagram. So one day it might be all black and white. 2 weeks from now, it could be that they have some kind of meme or some kind of filter on them. And you would do that with the different photos of your family members if you're trying to appeal to them. Okay, so here's what I came up with. I used a coloring page application that you can get online. It's called Really Color. And the photo on the left is of my grandparents. And then when I went and used Really Color, this is what came out as the coloring page. So if you want to go to the next page. This is a picture of the shop that my grandfather, his business was in for many, many years. And I turned that one into a coloring page also. And when I finally finished, I was able to edit this coloring page so much so that I was able to erase the truck that's in front of this shop, so that the family wasn't, when they received the coloring page, it was exactly what they were expecting to see, not that truck inside there, you know. But anyway, let's go to the next one. So my other idea is paper dolls. And the way that I did this with paper dolls here is it's another program, online program that will mask your the image that you want out of the photo. So if you go ahead and hit the next slide, you'll see that, and you can hit next again, that this is a picture of my father-in-law in his World War II naval uniform. And whenever I use the masking, it now just has the image of him. I was also able to do this on my iPhone in the photos. I don't know of any other, Adobe also allows you to do it. And there definitely are some other software programs that do that for you. So if you want to go ahead and hit slide again and next again, that's my grandmother. And this is how I made the paper doll of her. Now, what I will tell you, there's a very, very simple way to do this too without having to go through a computer program, is you just print out a copy of the photo on cardstock and cut it out. Very simple, right? Okay, let's go to the next page. So with this, and you can go ahead and next. So when you're playing paper dolls, now you can have grandpa on a bus, or you can have grandma in a scene that is more appropriate to her time period. Now, as I said, this one is, the background is appropriate for her background, especially for my grandmother. She grew up in Beaumont, Texas. She lived on a farm with her aunt and uncle for a while. And this is probably what the background looked like during her time. But the slide before that, where I had grandpa on a bus, you could have grandpa in a Lego village. You could have him, you know, anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the era appropriate. Wouldn't it be fun for grandpa to play with dinosaurs with your child who has who's into dinosaurs? So those are a couple of different things that you can do with paper dolls. The other thing that I've talked about in my book is word games. And everybody likes, well, a lot of people like word games. I definitely did. They really helped with my vocabulary growing up. So you can create a word search that I always recommend first, the surnames in your genealogy, and then maybe the names of the family members for your word search. Again, there are software programs all over the place online for you to create them, or you can create your own using graph paper or Excel. Now, who's who in the family, I really like that one too, especially for newcomers into the family. This really helps them learn who's who. So you have the names of family members on one side, and then how they're related to everyone on the other side of the family. I even did this for, I love the TV show Modern Family, and I did that with all of the people from Modern Family. So if you want to go on to the next slide. So this one is what I call Where's Grandma? It's a takeoff on Where's Waldo? So you would make a collage and maybe print it out and have it laminated. And then you come up with the different pages of keys of which photos you're going to look for, and give more information about what it is that you're looking for. So on my example, I have a picture of a belt buckle. Actually, my grandfather won a boxing match for the what do you call it, in the Army. So I have a picture of that, and there's an explanation of either what the item is or who the person is. And if you laminate that, you know, people like to circle, then, you know, you can clean off the lamination, and then you come up the next time the kids are around, you have a different set of keys, maybe of the same pictures, but they're looking for something different the next time. So you can play, you know, there's all kinds of ways to make this a lot of fun and use it more than once. All right, if you want to go on to the next slide. So statistics, where did they go? So my family, my grandparents grew up in Louisiana, or were born in, three of my grandparents were born in Louisiana, and then they moved to Texas in the early 1900s, like around between 1908 and 1920. And then my parents had 9 children. And where did they all go? So if you want to hit the slide again. So we moved to all different parts of Texas. No one lives in Port Arthur where we grew up. 2 people live in towns within 2 or 10 miles of Port Arthur, but most everybody else moved west, but they stayed in Texas. Of the 50-something descendants of my mother, only 2 are outside of Texas. I'm in Massachusetts, and I have a niece that lives in England. So that's pretty amazing when you think within 2 generations, we're just really gone. The next slide is a map of where everyone is. So the red heart on the right-hand side is Louisiana, where my grandparents the 3 of the grandparents lived. And then the rest of the blue pins are all the different areas of Texas that we now live in. I didn't go ahead and put Massachusetts or Britain in this map. But anyway, you can tell this is something fun to do with the kids. This in particular, I used my Google Maps, which allows you to create your own maps. You can put labels on this. You can put pictures with it. My Google Maps is really pretty interesting and a fun thing to do with kids. And if you want to go ahead with the next slide. So one of my, within the book that I wrote that Barbara told you about, I mentioned that you create an activity book, which would be a compilation of several of these ideas. And because I suggested it, I decided I needed to create one. So I created this activity book. This one's a very generic. It can be purchased at Amazon. And it has puzzles in it. It has coloring pages. It has some statistic activities. And I even have transcriptions, a couple of transcriptions in there. So I took a copy of one of my mother's recipes that she wrote. And part of genealogy is sometimes you have to transcribe a letter or a court record or something. So this was some activities that could be fun for a kid when they come over to grandma's house, or you send it home with them when they go, when they leave. Another idea I have about these activity books is that if you have a family reunion, you make a minimum number of them so that only 10 to 15 people get it, but 40 or 50 want them, and they don't get them unless they come to your house and try to learn more about genealogy. So, you kind of use it as genealogy bait to get them more interested. You don't let them have it. And again, it needs to be tailored to your audience. So, your word searches would be family oriented. Your statistics would be family oriented. One of the statistics I thought about was pick 3 families from one generation, like your mother's family, and 2 of your mother's cousins' families, and then do a comparison of who are the 3 oldest children, who's the oldest child of each family, what year were they born, and then who's the youngest, and what's the age difference between each one. So you kind of really get a lot of different information about that genealogy information, but it's in a fun way. It's not just here's the list of names and here's when they were born. You do some comparison. All right, if you want to go to the next one. So if you're having fun with genealogy and you still don't have anyone else that's interested, I say keep doing it. Your target audience may not respond today. It may be 2 years from now. It may be 5 years from now. I know it took me 20 years before I finally got to get into genealogy because of work and family life and so forth. And you also have to realize it may be after you have left this earth that somebody finally picks it up. So somebody is going to be interested. So I just say, be persistent, be consistent, just keep on doing it and have fun with genealogy. That's it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Cindy. Forgive my delay between my audio and my video. It'll catch up.
That's okay.
You all can turn on your cameras if you are comfortable doing that, and turn on your microphone, and we can follow up with some questions. I know I have a few questions myself, just to kick things off. I mean, one of the things that you impressed me with when we first met, Cindy, was one of these things that I look for across the board with folks who have been doing projects, and that is kind of the self-conscious nature. In other words, you've thought carefully about the project in terms of what is it that makes it work. And that's, I think, carries forward in so many of these projects that you talk about, the different activities that you talk about here. You've thought very carefully about why this thing works. For example, the Where's Waldo case, where you laminate it so that they can use a dry erase marker to mark things and then take it off. I have an idea for you, by the way, that might be cheaper because you don't have to laminate each one, which can be like $1.50 a piece. They make these sleeves, like archival sleeves.
Yeah.
And I don't know how well they behave with dry erase, but family historian's going to have archival supplies around. You get one of those sleeves and use that to draw on top of, and then you
Great
can have
idea.
the same space to just rotate through. It's going to get messed up, but it's at least you have one, and you have the impression of the challenge to the kids that there's more coming. And I think that's what is especially fun. So let me just open it up to others to ask questions.
So Christina's asking what types of activities are in the Fun with Genealogy activity book. So of course I have some word search and some crossword puzzles. I have some word matches so that you understand, who a brother is versus a grandparent versus an uncle. And then I have 3 different family statistics that are general to any family. I have some coloring pages. I have 2 charts on traits so that you can document the different traits in your mother's family, and then you can document the traits in your father's family. And then there's a couple of scavenger hunt and some transcriptions. That's about it. Yeah.
I love the idea of having these activities be something that are keeping the kids in context to a given event, but letting them feel important and busy while the parents are off doing whatever it is the parents are doing, like in a big family dinner. Chinese New Year's is coming up, and we're expecting big family dinners. And I like that idea of things that they can be doing that are engaged, and perhaps even running off to check with parents, but still having having tasks that feel important.
Right.
And are important. Go ahead, Al. Oh, mute button. There you go. Go ahead. Oh. No, sorry. Not yet. Al? If it's not on mute, it might be a microphone problem. Now it's mute. if you go to the little hamburger menu to the left of the leave call button, there should be an option under settings. You might have to scroll to see it, that lets you confirm that you have the right microphone, right devices attached. Does someone else have a call while he fools with that? Yeah, go ahead, Jane.
I wrote it in the messages, but I'm very happy to speak it out too. That was so interesting, Cindy. I'm from Australia. Nice to meet you all. So I actually have a play about my mum's life that I'm about to perform next month, and I'll be traveling around Australia. And part of the deal is that I deliver family story workshops, and I've done several for adults, but next month I've got 2 with a bunch of school kids. I believe they're sort of 16. They're kind of towards the end. And I've got a big group. Apparently there's like a couple of them, and there's 60 kids in each. And I was trying to rack my brain. So for the adults, I do a zine, and I do a section. I say, me then, me now, future me. Which, you know, depending on what age you are, you can usually write something in each of those columns. But for the kids, I'm really racking my brain. I like a zine format because I think everyone can go away with something that's really nice. But I don't think I'm not sure if they would appreciate the same sort of format. So yeah, you've really given me some inspiration, but I'd also love to hear if you have any advice for kids who are not my relations, and how would I try to interest and entice them in this activity?
Well, this is where I think maybe that I'm going to start focusing on this recently, though, is the statistics. So if they could, there are several different things that I don't know how you can get the information, or if you can ask them to get it beforehand. But if you know the different years that, you know, what is the average age that the women in your family married? What was the average age they were when they first had a child? You might somebody has to do some background research to get this. Or you give them some fake families with that information, and then you ask them to go through. And in my book, I came up with a fake family. I came up with a fake family from Greece, and I had them name all of their children. You know, I used the Greek naming pattern. The first child is named after the father, and the first child is named after the first female is named after the mother. And then each of those children have children, and then they name their children the same way. So there's 3 Nicks, there's 3 Dianas or something like that. So I came up with a fake family. So maybe you could do something like that, and then get them, and with fake information, when their birthdays are, when they got married, when they had children, and so forth. And then had them use that activity, and I had a whole list of questions for comparing the family and getting average ages and things like that.
That's a great idea.
So that might be for 12 to 16-year-olds, but I don't think it would be appropriate for younger kids.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
One idea that occurred to me related to that, and then I think you're probably about ready, Al, was the something I noticed in my own family research was starting to think about how old people were when historical events occurred. And so, for example, you're not going to find anybody born in, 1770 who participated in the Revolutionary War, not as a soldier, certainly. And yet you can also notice patterns about what years people were born in that were soldiers in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, or other major historical events. And I think that kind of thing suddenly puts this external history in the context of family history or places they lived and have lived at the Alamo, lived near important places and important things that happened.
As the Verizon guy would say, can you hear me now?
Yay!
Congratulations, Barbara. You troubleshot the problem from 3,000 miles away.
I live for this. I'll turn off my video and go fix my video.
Quick question. As I started to say when you didn't hear me, being lazy, I'm wondering on word search, have you run into a program that you can put the words in and it will make the grid for you?
Yes, it's called Crossword, and it's free. They do ask for donations, but the thing that I came across with that particular program, Crossword, and then it has one for word search. It tended to just, when I do word searches, I want diagonals, I want up and down, I want backwards, I want across, horizontal, and I want the whole gamut. But it didn't seem to do a lot of diagonals, and when it did do the diagonals, they all seemed to go in the same direction. And so I wasn't satisfied with that, and that's why I went with Excel and made my own.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to include those links in the recording, or with the sharing of this, or we can add more into the comments when it's posted. Those are really wonderful resources.
Yeah, and they're fun.
Excellent. MK, you turned on your video. Welcome. You had a question, perhaps? No?
No question. I just thought I'd show up so you could see my face.
Hello.
Thank you. It's so friendly. I appreciate that.
Great presentation. Some great ideas.
Good.
I wanted to circle back, if I may, to some of the kinds of things that you talked about very briefly, which was this idea of letting the kids innovate about what's important to them. You gave the example of Instagram. I know kids, and it seems to be at increasingly younger ages, want to tell you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, Mom, when it comes to, you don't know Instagram, you don't know whatever the app is. What are some subtle points about getting them to feel like it's their idea, about getting them to use that, you don't know what you're talking about, energy to get into it themselves?
Well, I think the subtlety there is you pretend you don't know how to do something and lead them into showing you how to do it.
The old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think for tech things, there's always a little bit of that. Gosh, there must be a way to figure out how to do X. And then pretty soon they're showing you the Canva version or whatever it is.
Yeah, in my genealogy fun while developing new genealogists, one of these, there's over 30 suggestions in there. And one of them is, I can't, tell me how would I find out if there's a book with our last name, our surname, that is about our surname. And then they're going to say, oh, well, then you go to Google Books and you type in the surname and there, and oh my God, there is a book about our surname. Oh, we should get that.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Do you work in their kind of things that you're explicitly teaching as opposed to keeping them active? For example, bibliographic techniques, or at least keeping a cookie trail of where they've been, things like that?
That is important, especially if you're really serious about documenting the information that you found. And, this is the big thing that a lot of genealogists wish that they had done a better job of keeping track of their sources and so forth. So yes, I would say if you are really adamant about teaching someone else about genealogy, you do need to help them learn to document what they found and how they found it, because it is no fun having to go back years later and trying to figure out where I found that information.
I do no
this
longer online.
right. But in the bibliographies that I have written, some of them I wrote 5 years ago, and at the time I did not have I didn't understand the importance of citing everything. And then I took a course at BU, Boston University, for genealogies, and realized that I have to cite everything. So when I went to go publish my stories, I needed to cite my sources. And let me tell you, I can't put up the number of stories I would like to as quickly as I can because of the time it takes me to go back and cite my sources. So the thing that I will say about citing sources, even though there is a format and standards for most of that, to me, more important is that you are able to find it again. So don't focus on writing it the proper way. Focus on making sure you can find it again. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. And I think the tools to properly document, the tools to properly format the citations and things like that, frankly, those are getting easier. That's a great task for AI to do,
yes,
for example.
Definitely.
But going back to the curriculum point, does anybody know of any online curriculum designed, for example, for 10-year-olds or young kids that sort of hits those key principles?
So the New England Genealogical Society, NEHGS, has a curriculum that they have created for schools, and it is free. So any teacher or parent can go online and download that curriculum.
Those are the ancestors.org people, or is it NG? Yeah. Okay.
Well, NEHGS is
ancestors.org. Do you have a link for that? I'd love to have that in the notes.
I will get it for you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And my genealogy society is working on having either a camp for 1 week during summer vacation, or we're working with a private school to based on the curriculum from NEHGS. We're trying to hook up with a private school to see if we can pull in, even just 5 kids as an extracurricular activity, and then see what happens with it.
That's a fabulous idea, because I think, genealogy is like oceanography or something, in the sense that it brings in multiple functions into a topical interest, which is a great thing to do in a summer, to really explore writing it, to explore history, to explore math and statistics. And research techniques and archiving and all these different fields that a kid doesn't have to obligate to, but like a 5th grader, it's interesting. And that's a great idea. There is the Society of Genealogists in the UK. Maybe one of you will know more about this. As I recall, they have an upcoming conference for young genealogists who are, I think they're kind of targeting Gen Z kind of genealogists. But it dawns on me that folks who are in that generation, so they're talking to their siblings, for example, who are, in grade school or in high school, that would be a really wonderful segment to add innovation to this kind of idea. I'll put a feeler out.
And Barbara, my presentation here today, and most of my ideas are from the old school, meaning not using technology. I've used paper and books and so forth. But, you know, an iPad or a tablet, all of these things can be done on that also, if that's what your target audience needs and wants. You may have to find a new an application or something that's available for kids that will draw them in, if that's what it takes. So you may have to do more work than you want to.
But I think the principle of starting with paper, starting with the goal. One of the phrases that I always have for these events is start with a goal. My video, sorry about that, is start with a goal in mind and know what your output is before you start working on something. And I think what's so elegant about this is by focusing on, crayons and pencils and Montessorian sorts of tools, sensorial tools, you have a way of getting to a pure point about what's important. Then you can add the technology bits to deliver that better. And certainly, the internet thing is doing research that you could also do with books in a library, but it's a lot more convenient for all of those computing reasons.
Right.
And I think that's really quite lovely. Do we have other questions? Jojo, welcome. I know you came in a bit late. The whole thing will be recorded, but you're very welcome to join in on the conversation if you had some questions that brought you here today. Does everyone on this call have access to the recording? At the conclusion of the program, it takes usually an hour or two for Google to cough up the recording for me. I then take it and do a little bada bing, bada boom to post it up to our Projectkin forum, which is now homed at Substack. So to come on in there, you'll get an email directly from Eventbrite that I use to set these meetings up, making sure you've got a link in there. All they ask for is the email address to subscribe. It's like subscribing to a newsletter. If you're interested in, and I will email you the recording of today's program from those emails. If you want to get in to add comments, to engage in the conversation, you will need to get a little bit deeper in with Substack, but all it requires is either an app on your phone or I guess iPad. Oh yeah, iPad, or to create an account, which is sort of a password transaction, to get you in on the site. It is all free. It really is free. My costs are practically zero, and I'm committed to doing this because I think it's just too much fun and too important, and it really wouldn't have the same experience if everybody were paying for it on a per whatever event. So I'm committed to this, and that's why we do it this way. Although part of what I've learned the most from is getting that feedback and insights, and it has powered me greatly in doing both my own family research as well as knowing what I can do to contribute to these things. So please don't be shy about dropping me notes and suggestions. And I'm looking at you, Al. We've had these conversations.
Yes.
So with anything else, should we go ahead and wrap? Any other feedback? Here's a little secret. We have these meetings. I try to keep them to under an hour. And then I do what I'm going to do right now, which is to turn off the recording. And then we have an after party. There we go.